Hello and welcome to Higher Thinking on Higher Ed. I am Charlene Carrington of Content Strong Communications, the communications and marketing partner of choice for post-secondary and nonprofits and small business. Today, I'm excited to continue diving into the trends and the challenges encountered by leaders in higher education. And today, I am honored to welcome Dr. Roger Best to the hot seat. Roger is the president of the University of Central Missouri, where he has served in leadership roles for nearly 3 decades. I'm sorry to age you, Roger. With a background in finance and a deep commitment to academic quality, financial stability, and student success, of course, he brings a strategic and service-minded approach to institutional transformation. Thank you so much again for bringing your expertise to this conversation. How are you doing?
Great. So great to join you, Charlotte. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And no problem aging me. My gray hair certainly does that, and the wrinkles. And so I'm just glad to have been around this long. So I'm still happy to be serving here.
That's a good way to put it. And quite frankly, it's wisdom. That's what it is. It's wisdom. It's just telling a telling sign of all your wisdom. And I know we're going to get some wonderful nuggets from you today. So, the first question I always like to ask really is just a little bit of a context check, right? Can you share a little bit about, your role as president, how you see your leadership aligning with, UCM's current priorities and what institutional goals are kind of guiding your work right now?
Sure. So as the president for UCM, we are a regional public university. We've been around for about 154 years now in our state, started as a normal school. So from my perspective as president, and this is certainly informed by the length of time I've served here, I've been president since 2018. So although I've been in university service here for about 30 years, starting as a faculty member, more recently administration, particularly central administration, and as president. So from my standpoint, what's important in my service as president is to never forget our history and our legacy as an institution in the state and what that means to the state of Missouri, where we have been doing our service for a long time. And
Right,
we, as a public institution, we serve a broader public mission. So making sure I never forget that connectivity to what it means to be public. That's certainly workforce, business, industry, government, but beyond that, our goal is to help our region, help our state. And so to make sure that my approach as president really never forgets that. And
right,
again, as a regional public, we serve a large percentage of first generation college students. So we know that there's some discomfort potentially with families and or the students coming into an environment they don't know as much about. I was a first
right.
generation college student myself. So again, keeping my own background in mind as I lead the university through our various priorities, but first and foremost, starting that from the standpoint of we're in the people business. Our goal is to serve, and so making sure that as the president, I demonstrate that I show others what it means to serve, and I can be approachable, and knowing that we're going to hold high standards in those things. So approachability doesn't equal yes to every question, but making
Right.
sure that I never forget where I came from and where the university came from and how those things come together to continue the great work we're doing here at the university.
Well, Roger, that's a great answer. And, I'm going to throw you off again. The first question that came to mind was, you mentioned you yourself were first generation and you're definitely serving a lot of first generation incoming students. And there is, I think you alluded to that, there is a little bit of a push and pull, specifically right now where, people are having that conversation about what is the true value of higher education. How do you respond to that? How do you, put those families, and I have to say families at ease because it really is a family-wide decision to say, I'm going to invest this much time and energy and money to go to, any institution.
Exactly. And so I always start with the premise that a question about the value proposition or our
Right,
value add as an institution is not a threat. That is something that we should be able to answer. That is something that we should be expected to provide communication about. We have
right,
a responsibility to our students who pay a lot of money to come to the university to study and earn a degree. But we also owe that duty to the taxpayers that support us and our stakeholders, our constituents who provide funding to us, whether alumni or others. So the question of whether what we're doing is valuable, that should be a natural question that we ask ourselves to
right,
ensure that we're continuing to do the good work that we do. So we just try to relay to families what does it mean to earn a degree? Not just what are the outcomes, what does it mean to try to earn a degree and the difficulty that
right,
that means. But then what is the outcome? Why would you want to have a degree? Certainly from our standpoint, a lot of the students we serve, they come here with an idea of a profession in mind. So they're looking for a
Right.
job. And so how do we relate the major they're considering or the majors that we have to careers and job outcomes? But beyond that, discussing things such as health outcomes in our communities where education is better or less crime. So the societal outcomes that education provides. So from our standpoint, we love to talk about the value proposition, and our price point is such that our costs for students are very manageable from our perspective. So we always try to keep that in mind as well. We know that families, students pay a lot of money for the experience, but we want it to be more than just valuable. We want it to be manageable as well,
Right.
and helping them understand how that all comes together for a longer term investment that it's going to pay off for them for the rest of their lives. From the price perspective, we hear a lot about the cost of higher education today versus the price of higher education. And I always like to put in perspective, 4 years of tuition and mandatory fees here at the university cost less than the average price of a new vehicle in the United States. And so, how many of us aspire to have a new car one day, or a new truck, or a new SUV, and put that up against the cost of a 4 year degree with us, and the difference in the long-term value of each of those types of investments. So for us, we love to talk about the value proposition. Our concern comes in not so much on the value proposition conversation, but some of the conversations around uh, how you measure that or what the
Right.
consequences to the institution would be if we don't hit those measurements that are being proposed.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, definitely, because I really want to hear what it is that you are looking at in terms of metrics and how you are actually measuring, what your outputs are and what your strategies are. But I want to take that one little step back a little bit and think about the sector and kind of all the changes that we're seeing right now. What larger shifts in higher education, such as changing student demographics, as you rightfully alluded to, public trust in institutions, as you alluded to, digital transformation, for example, are really shaping your strategies at UCM right now.
Yeah, all three of those. Because if you think about the public trust side, we're a public institution, so we therefore need to make sure we're earning the public trust. That includes considering what the public desires for us to do as institutions, given the state level investment and even the federal level investment that's made in institutions such as ours. We know that the number of traditional age students graduating from high school year over year will be going down starting in 2026. We
Right.
certainly saw the college going rate, the immediate college going rate decline after the pandemic. We've seen some recovery of that, but in the state of Missouri, we lost 10 percentage points on the immediate college going rate following the pandemic. So even prior to the enrollment cliff, we started seeing that challenge to the traditional aged undergraduate student enrollment, who tend to be by and large residential students for
Right.
us. So, how do you continue to function and maintain quality in an environment where your core demographic starts changing? And
Right.
then add on top of that, the you refer to it as digital transformation. For us, it's the technological shifts that we see happening with agentic AI, for example. There are some very fascinating opportunities, in my opinion, with agentic AI. But at the same time, if you have the capability to educate someone without a person actually being involved in a traditional classroom type of approach, what
Right.
does that do to the meaning of a university and what we typically do day in and day out here on our main campus? So those are certainly considerations. And we're working on all of those. How do we maintain robust enrollment? How do we encourage traditional age students to enroll in higher education, whether it's with us or others? How do we address non-traditional aged students, whether that's undergraduate focused or graduate focused? And then how do we play a role in preparing individuals in the workforce for something they need in the moment? So this
Right.
notion of, I used to call it just-in-time education, but this idea that I am in a career already, but I need an additional skill set to move to my next position or to improve what I'm doing within my job. Where do I get that? How do I get that? And your university certainly can and should serve a role in that from my perspective.
I think you've touched on so many things there, and one of the things that really comes to mind is rightfully so this idea of AI and how much AI is transforming the way we work, the way we learn. Certainly, the rigor of education when we see students, just going in and kind of copying whatever they get spit out from a big LLM, and we think about what that means for faculty as well and how they're presenting information. We think about, how it works in the back end in terms of your strategy and being able to reach students and what those new tools and what those new mechanisms are. um, I wonder, dig into that a little bit for me because I think you mentioned that certainly we're seeing that in terms of AI, but how is that impacting you guys specifically? And are you, some institutions are afraid of the shift and some institutions are fully kind of diving in and embracing it.
Yeah, and I would say we were probably somewhere in the middle of that. We started seeing the shifts with augmented reality and virtual reality a few years
Right.
ago. And so we really did our part to try to embrace that. And we refer to it as extended reality here. And when you take tools such as those that really do have the capability to enhance learning at a pretty high level, the analogy I always use, we have a professional pilot program here on our campus, and we have about 300 majors that are professional pilot majors. Well, the first opportunity to fly a plane by one of our students is not in an actual plane. We put them in a simulator. We've been doing simulators for long, long time here on campus, and the virtual reality tools, augmented reality tools that we're seeing now are really no different than that, just applied to different types of skill sets, and really
Right.
give you an opportunity to practice and fail without it being a major consequence of failure. But now add the AI, artificial intelligence realm on top of that. It is easy to see that as a threat. But I would just harken back to major shifts we've seen in our history of higher ed. Higher ed's been around for a really long time. The notion of
Right.
education. At some point we didn't have written text. We didn't have books. And so scholars stood in front of others and expounded on knowledge and shared that knowledge. What happened when books came along? Well, there was still a reason to have education overlay, even with those books. And then at some point in our lifetime, we saw the introduction of the internet era. All right,
Yeah.
well, if I'm an individual that has ready access to all sorts of information at my fingertips, why do I need this notion of a college or university
Going to
degree?
university.
What is that really doing for me? So we've always had that question about value add. What are we doing that adds value to learning to individuals? Some of it, truthfully, is just in the certification, right? So
Right.
we're able to
Right.
certify that you've learned and that you have certain skill sets and that you're capable of. And it's more than just you know things, it's you have this capability to think beyond and learn in new environments and
Why?
adapt to new environments. So there's a certification role we play, certainly, but way more than that from our perspective. So if you think about AI, it's just another iteration of that. It's different, but we've adapted and we should be looking at how we adapt to this and continue that value add proposition that we always have maintained in higher education. That's not about us. That's about the entire
Right.
sector.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think there is more of an opportunity there, right? Because what you're saying is what you've always been saying is higher education really allows you to think and to apply. And now you just have a new tool where you need to facilitate more thinking and more application, even though you have this tool to help you and to speed up some of your processes, let's say.
And I think the natural reaction typically when something new happens like that, it's like, oh, we can't allow that or we shouldn't do that
Yeah.
because the threat is easier to see sometimes than the benefit. And what we've been able to do here is in some cases just demonstrate here's some capability.
Right.
And when people, being our faculty and staff, are able to see the possibilities that exist with the technology in their own work, it does change the mindset about whether it really is a threat. And we know, of
Right.
course, once industry is adopting and adapting to new technology, that there's no reason for us to be fighting against it. It's going to happen. And
Right.
a couple of years ago, I had a former student. He had just graduated. He came in, was having a conversation with me, and he was talking about something that his supervisor had asked him to do in his work, and he was working on it. And his supervisor said, "What? Why are you doing that? Why don't you use?" And he named an AI tool that's very
Right.
common. And so his comment to me was, if you're going to try to fight this, you've lost. It's just not going to happen because we're already using this type of technology, and that really is eye-opening when you think about what our core responsibility is and how we should be fulfilling that with whatever tool is available that enhances that learning process.
Absolutely. So, I mean, thinking about that and thinking about even your perspective on using those tools and and beyond even AI, right? What's working for you guys now? What's not working? What initiatives or approaches, at UCM are you gaining traction? Are you seeing traction? Are you seeing obstacles? Are you seeing diminishing results? And what's working, what's not?
Yeah, so for us, the probably the thing that's not working as well for us right now, we serve a lot of international students, and so we've certainly seen some challenges with the ability for students to gain visas. So that process is probably not working as well for us now. We have a very robust international recruitment platform and
Right,
engagement. Last spring, for example, we served students from about 2,900 students from 56 different countries in addition
right,
to our domestic population. And so, if we think about the traditional makeup of our portfolio of students, if we want to look at it that way, that's certainly one of those that where we're rethinking how we educate students from other countries, or rethinking how we can recruit them to come to campus. And we know that some of the hurdles we're seeing are short term in nature. They're a matter of changing policies and all of us adapting to new policies, which happens all the time. Anytime there's a administration that changes, there's something new and different that we need to work on and adapt to. So it's just a matter of understanding how we navigate an environment where some of the expectations have changed or shifted, and still serve that population of students. Now, the flip side to that is what continues to work well for us is how we approach our students in general. Uh, we like to say, I like to say, I shouldn't say throw us all under this. I like to say that if you look at competitive advantages, if you think about cost or price, right, there can only be one low cost provider.
yep,
And so you really have to think beyond things like what is the price. You have to think about your quality. We have an amazing foundation of academic quality here at the university, and we're in Missouri. Missouri is the show me state, but at the same time, there's a lot of humbleness in Midwestern United States. And so we don't always do a great job of bragging on ourselves and some of the great things that are actually happening with our faculty, staff, and students, and the unbelievable work they're doing, the rankings we have, those sorts of things that are national or global in nature. So what's still working well for us is the quality that we're able to provide up against the price at which we're able to do it even. But even more so, one of the foundations of our work here is the student experience. We believe in a fully engaged student experience. And I tell students who are considering UCM to think carefully, because if you want to be anonymous, that's not going to happen here. We're going to get to know
right,
you, we're going to work with you closely. And so that degree of connectivity with our students is still working extremely well for us. We hear so often from our students that they found their place here, or they feel like this is a community, to some extent, even family. And that happens because we believe in being engaged with the individual. It's important that they're a UCM student for us, but it's more important that they're an individual, and
right.
they bring their own unique journey, their own unique perspectives, their own unique path in life. And our goal is to ensure that we are helping them and facilitating that success along their path. So that continues to work very well for us, and from my perspective, is one of our competitive advantages here at the university.
I was just gonna say that that's a huge brand differentiator, in a world where people, exactly as you said, are sitting here touting either, "Hey, look, we're low cost," or, "Hey, we're the highest quality," but, it's a pretty price tag. You'll have to find that one core piece that does set you apart, and clearly it's that, just creating that environment and really understanding and appreciating the different assets and the different, individual personalities and strengths that they bring to the table and to the overall learning experience. I think that's a big piece. So
Exactly.
if we look ahead. No, you go ahead, sorry.
And we do that with connectivity to business and industry as well. So it's
Right,
not only the experience they have here, we look at their ability to begin a career. Our first destination success rate, the official metric that we use, it's the national metric, has been well above the average for the last at least 20 years here. So we
right.
are consistently in the mid to high 90% range on our first destination success. And That's including fulfilling the minimum requirements for responses and our surveys and things like that. So that's more having responses from no less than 60% of our graduates about what's going on with them. So we feel really good about not just how we treat our students and how they engage with us, but the education they're actually receiving because they play so well. So that's really for us the clincher. It's not just we did we have a good time while you were here? Did you learn something? It's the validation of their value as a potential employee or a citizen going forward through those metrics we look at post graduation.
Well, that's exactly was my next question was going to be what are those metrics? So coming back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago is what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you're measuring and tracking to really see that you're hitting, hitting the mark?
Yeah, we use some very standard types of measurements, first and foremost, whether that's retention rates, persistence rates. So we measure those across all of our classes, not just the first to second year class. We look at that at our graduate level too. And we also look at the standard graduation rates, knowing that there are limitations to those measurements. So we try to look beyond those traditional measures. So, for example, graduation rates are based on first time, full time, and if there's any if we have part-time students starting with us, those don't really get captured. So we use some other measurements, such as the percentage of students who are completing up against the enrollment that we have. So year over year, how many of our students have actually earned a degree of some sort up against our enrollment, and how does that trend? And that's a state level measure that we use. So we're able to compare ourselves to others in the state. We do some modifications to that for the type of students we serve, so Pell eligible versus not, knowing that there are higher risk factors in certain cases, such as Pell eligibility tends to mean higher socioeconomic risk for completion. And so when we look at all of that, we tend to lead the state in that completions, what we call completions per FTE.
Right.
So for us, that's incredibly important. We want you to finish what you started when you came here. And so any metric we can look at that says you were able to do that, that's really the starting point, though, because we want you to be successful post finishing what you started, right? It's not just, did you finish? Then that becomes the starting point. How well are you doing post finishing? So we look at those placement rates again, the first destination success. We look at the salaries our students are earning. We
Okay.
regularly meet with our alumni. We engage with them. We are setting institutional records for our alumni engagement in terms of the percentage who are responding back to us, communicating with us, coming to our events. And so we ask for those stories. Tell us how you're doing. Tell us what's going on. So even anecdotally, we're asking, uh, how did things go for you when you graduated? How have they been since you graduated? Are there things that we can do differently or better from your perspective based on your experience coming through and where you are today? So, and we also reach back and tell any of our alumni that uh, we're still a resource. So if you're looking at career transition, job transition, you can still utilize our Office of Career and Life Design. We want you to be connected to us, but also to the employers that recruit from here, through here. And so that post graduation connectivity is another one of our measurements. How engaged are our alumni with us, and if they're engaged with us, they give us advice, but that speaks highly of the experience they had here because they're still willing to hang out with us in some capacity.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's a testament when you have an engaged alumni group, it really is a testament to the experience that they had there. That means they were connected while they were there and they want to maintain that connectivity afterwards. And I think it's a big deal. I don't think everyone can say that or boast that. What's going on with you for the next 6 to 12 months? If we look ahead, what's your team really focused on over the next 2 quarters? Where is most of your attention and your attention and your effort going to be directed?
Yeah, maybe even some tension in there too, right? Because I like to say that there has never been a university president who's ever said, we just have too much money. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all of this money that we have? And no matter which era president served or chancellor, uh, every president and chancellor who's ever served could and would be able to say with certainty, we live in challenging times. There's always
Right.
something that will challenge us. And so if we think about the short term, what that's likely going to be challenging us over the short term. I mentioned the possibility of international enrollments. So for
Right.
us, we do anticipate a decline in international enrollment for next year, just given some of the headwinds with visa procurement. Again, we anticipate that'll recover in the coming semesters, but in the short term, we'll want to account for that, and we already have been and adjust to that. There's some fiscal reality that comes along with that as well. But also, if we start looking at what's probably going to happen to state level higher education budgets for public institutions, we have been extremely fortunate in Missouri to have gotten substantial increases in our state support over the last 5 years.
Right.
Some of that certainly relied on federal dollars coming in, but now some of the changing dynamic, even things such as the Medicare tax reimbursement rate that has been capped now at the federal through federal legislation, that's going to impact our state budget to some extent, I'm sure. And so we anticipate state level funding is going to flatten here pretty quickly. And we won't be able to live anticipating those large increases year over year that we've gotten in the last few years. And so we, again, from a fiscal perspective, just have to adjust to that and make sure that we know how to handle that. And we've been fortunate to certainly the last 5 to 7 years, build our reserves through good financial management, fiscal management.
Right.
We've been able to do a lot of stuff on campus through infrastructure improvements, through a combination of our funds and state funds and donor funds. So um, we it does not put us in dire straits to recognize that there are some fiscal challenges that may be coming, and we've built our budgets to account for those and built our anticipations of that. So even though those challenges will happen, we'll look at what's the reality is based on our forecast versus what's happening, and then make any further adjustments to our process that we need to ensure that we have that fiscal sustainability that's been our hallmark. Now, on the flip side, the good stuff. We're taking our next steps on our campus master plan here. We
Okay.
instituted a new campus master plan about 5 years ago. We have a $40 million renovation of one of our main buildings that will be completed in February of 26. So that's very exciting for us. And then we'll take the next step. So what's the next step on our master plan? And again, despite some of the potential headwinds we think that might exist with fiscal reality in the coming months or even a couple of years, we've been able to position ourselves to go ahead and move forward with some of those master plan capital improvements, infrastructure improvements. So, and then probably the other thing I would add is over the next year, we are going to delve even deeper into becoming an AI enabled campus. We're on the cusp of fully developing our roadmap. So we're going
Okay.
to have a 5 year roadmap to becoming a fully AI enabled campus, and that'll roll out sometime in the next couple of months. And we're already taking steps on that. So over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll actually be implementing even more AI-based tools to enhance our productivity, do some things at scale that we just can't do right now, and to help us rethink what the future looks like here at the University of Central Missouri.
There are a lot of things that, that came to mind as you were talking about that. I mean, one, this idea of your master plan, and certainly every institution has a big strategic plan that they follow. I wonder, and you can feel free not to share this if you don't want to, but I wonder how long is your master plan? Like sometimes, they plan 5, 6, 10 years even. What's your timeline or your length of time for that? And then obviously I see you have your roadmap coming out of that. I'm thinking from it from a strategic lens, how you plan out your strategies.
Exactly. And so the campus master plan was developed with our strategic plan in mind.
Right.
When I became president, we actually weren't operating with a strategic plan. We had a strategic positioning platform, which guided our work, but it wasn't a traditional strategic plan. So we implemented our plan in 2019. We officially rolled it out January of 2020, and then the world certainly changed. So we really
Phase.
revised that plan
Right.
into 2021 and re energized it with thinking about how the world had changed. And so the original plan was intended to run for about 5 years. And when
Okay.
we redid the plan 2021, we pushed it to 2026 as our guiding plans. We are in the process of redeveloping our strategic plan now because again, there needs to be a sunset. You really need to sit
Right.
down every year and think about your plan and whether it makes sense and whether you need to
And
adapt and
refine. Right.
adopt. But in this case, we're going to reformulate the entire plan. We'll still see some same elements that are in our current plan because we talk about student access and student success and the success of our faculty and staff. So those are still elements we'll focus on, but we're going to go to more of a strategic imperative model and one that
Right.
really has much more intentionality about sitting down and determining whether we're still on track and whether we need to rethink any of our pathways that are in the part of our imperatives. And we expect to roll that out by spring to summer of next year, so 2026. We're independently governed. We have a board of governors that's appointed by the Missouri governor. And so they have to approve these types of things. I report
Right.
to
Of
that
course.
board. So we have a process, but for us, it's a very inclusive process. We have interviews. We've already done interviews with our board members. They've done interviews with me. Our council has that it's working on the plan. And then they do that with a lot of our employees, our students, and then alumni and other stakeholders and constituents as well. So we'll actually have this incredible set of input that we will actually use AI tools to condense into meaningful response to look for
Right.
patterns and thoughts and ideas through those different sets of inputs that we have. And so, yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And we don't believe in the static plan you put on the shelf and it's good for 5 years because the world changes pretty quickly, and that's
So drastically
what's
in five
happening.
years. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. As we're seeing right now.
exactly.
Um, yeah. I think I have one question for you, and
Yes.
it's the last question. And sometimes people find this super easy, and sometimes they find it super difficult, and they really have to take some time to think about it. But I think it'll be easy for you. If I gave you a magic wand right now and you could remove one persistent barrier to your progress, whether it's, structural or cultural or external, whatever it is, what would it be and what difference would it make for you and your ecosystem?
And that's a great question. And I think that and I don't know that how many presidents and chancellors would admit to this, but all of us probably fantasize about having a magic wand, right? And
Right.
and one day being able to do this. So short of $1 billion donor showing up as my magic wand, I would say for us, uh, being able to have a seamless transition into this notion of the tech-based tools that we need to use to be successful going forward.
Right.
And with that, still maintaining this customer centric, if you want to call our students customers, this idea of student centric approach to what we do. Um, Anytime you adopt a new technology, there, early adopters, late adopters, kind of the mid, what's that true life cycle. But it's hard to change. And this is a
Right.
pretty massive change we're about to embark upon. And so the magic wand for me would be to be able to get us from where we are today to where we have to be from a technological tool perspective without any casualties along the way. I believe in evolution, not revolution, because revolution creates casualties. Evolution means
Right.
things change naturally. And so being able to do that without our feeling the negative impact of that level of change. That would be
Good
my magic
answer.
wand. That's my magic wand.
That's a good one. That's a really good answer. Is there anything else that I neglected to ask you about and you were dying to mention or to share with us today?
I think we covered so much, and there are so many things that I love the University of Central Missouri. I think we do some great work here, and so I could spend many of your podcasts talking about the stuff we do here, but that would be very selfish on my part. But the one thing I would say is that from as we think about the measurements and value proposition for higher ed. I would challenge our elected officials as we work together to identify the metrics we should use to show that we are doing what we're supposed to do. We are upholding our responsibility, that we approach that through common sense. Some of the proposals we see, from my perspective, we end up being the blame for personal choices that our adult students get to make
Right.
and that's not just while they're here, that's when they graduate. We don't tell them what they should major in. We don't tell them the jobs they should take when they graduate. We don't we advise them on career paths. We advise them on number of hours they should take to graduate, things like that. But they're adults, they get to choose. And so
Right.
just recognizing that we serve a population that has free choice. They don't have to enter universities at all. They don't have to come to UCM. They could go anywhere if they wanted to go to a university besides here. And so the population we serve are adults, and they make choices that sometimes we don't agree with. So it's difficult for us to be considered responsible for those sets of choices
Right.
that we have no authority to actually get them to choose differently. So that's the one thing I would mention from a sector perspective, that as we consider how we can all work together to show that we're responsible, that we're accountable, that let's do it in a way that makes sense from what our actual responsibilities and role is in society.
Wouldn't that be a novel idea, Roger, if you'd actually get, you know, central government to, and I can't come from a government background myself, but to actually provide the kind of metrics and the benchmarks that they're looking for to be able to determine success from their eyes, right? What an interesting idea that
Maybe
would
that's
be.
the magic wand, right?
That's the
But
magic wand for me.
and I would say we have such supportive elected officials, so I don't want
That's
to
good.
presume that that's not the case. Both at the federal level and the state level for us, we've seen so much support from our elected officials. But we also recognize they serve constituents besides
Yeah,
us. And sometimes
right.
they're trying to answer to those constituencies and the concerns that they raise. And so, how do we all work together to make sure that it makes sense what we're doing?
Collaboration, Roger.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your time and your perspective with us today. It's been a thoughtful and generous conversation. To our listeners, our watchers, I hope this episode sparked some ideas, maybe, I don't know, affirmed your own experiences or helped you see a challenge in a new light. If you're a leader in higher ed, communications, marketing, finance, advancement, enrollment, whatever, and you want to contribute to this conversation, we'd love to hear from you, because ideally these conversations are not just talk, they're the start of a shared roadmap for the future of our field. So let's get to work. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you very much.